Hey guys, yeah, good morning. It's a beautiful day here in Bozeman, Montana. It's very blessed to live in such a gorgeous place. I wanted to talk a little bit today about something that I've noticed over the years. If you've been doing what I've been doing in helping men for the last 40 years, you start to notice patterns, and it's these patterns of behavior. Some of them are good, but a lot of them don't serve the individual. And so I want to talk about some of those patterns today that I think are so important that are holding people back from reaching their full potential, to getting the full enjoyment out of life that we should, especially in that last third of our life. I mean, that's what I'm so passionate about, is helping men understand that the last third of your life should absolutely 100% be the best third of your life. And that's not the reality for most men. And so some of the lessons I've learned, it's actually quite fascinating. It's almost never a lack of intelligence or smarts. It's almost never a lack of resources, or even a lack of discipline that hold men back from reaching their full potential. Most of the time, it's what I would call self-deception or delusional. Now, delusional has a negative connotation, so I don't want you to think that there's something wrong with you. But I do think that it's super important that we start to recognize these patterns, because these patterns will ultimately decide, what our future is going to look like, and our enjoyment of it in particular. So this self-deception is kind of that quiet, seemingly harmless story that we start to buy into, that, well, I'm getting older, I'm too busy. I went to the doctor and he said my blood work's fine, and I just need to exercise a little more and eat a little better. And in reality, you have no clue what that means, no clue how to implement that, certainly. And I'm speaking from experience. I know that because when I start working with men, even the smartest ones, the most intelligent, the most successful with the biggest businesses, they have no clue what eating right really means and what proper training really means. And they have no idea of the limiting beliefs that they have running in the back of their mind. They have no idea of the self-sabotage that they're actually doing to themselves. And they start focusing on these seemingly small things that really don't matter, when in reality, those are the things that do matter. I'll focus on it after whatever, and I've heard it all. After tomorrow, after my kid gets out of college, after whatever, after dinner, next week, next month, and pretty soon it never happens. Nothing changes. And these guys are smart. They're smart guys, and they know something's off. They know something's maybe not aligned. Or it might be, some belief like, well, I can't spend money on myself. That's selfish, and there's things that my kids need or want. There's things that my in-laws need, or my wife needs, or my, husband needs, or whatever. And they, that I can't spend money on myself. When in reality, what they're saying is either they don't believe that it's possible for them to live their best life, to achieve all their dreams, or they're actually saying that I'm really not that valuable in my family unit, which couldn't be further from the truth. And a lot of these guys are really on thin ice, because they are the breadwinner. They are the one that makes the machine work. They are the one that makes the business work. And without them, things crash in a hurry. And so it's almost scary. It's kind of like living without insurance. So, but little by little, they start accepting these things that they would absolutely never tolerate in their business. If their business declined by 5%, their net revenue declined by 5%, it would be like red alert, like, what the hell's going on? We've got to fix this right now. And we've got to hire the best people to help us with this, get the best analytics, do the best advertising, whatever it takes. We've got to do whatever it takes to get this ship righted, if you will. Yet when it comes to their personal body and their personal life and their personal enjoyment of the last third of their life, they're like, I'm okay. Like say my blood work's fine. I'm doing, my belly's getting a little bigger, but that's, what's the big deal, right? They don't understand these little cancers, and I don't mean that literally, but figuratively, these little things that start gnawing away at their enjoyment of life, and until they get slapped in the side of the head. And you've all heard me talk about that. The universe will give you a little nudge, a little whisper, and if you don't start listening, it'll give you a little push. And if you really quit listening, like the soreness, the pain, the mental fog, the lack of energy, you get up out of a chair, you're sore, you wake up in the morning, you're exhausted. If you don't start paying attention to those little things, that's when your health, your vitality, your relationships, your purpose goes out the window. And the problem with this is I know this because I've lived this. A lot of you know my story too, but I was diagnosed with a rare blood disorder that could have literally killed me within a couple years. And I was looking at that right in the face. And so I understand this. I'm not talking from some ivory tower that, hey, look at me. I'm just saying, when you see what I see over the long period of time that I've seen it, and you see these patterns start to show themselves, it's like you can't not shout that from the rooftop. And you eventually learn, these men learn that pride is expensive, that I can do it myself, that I just need more discipline, I need more motivation. It gets expensive in years, it gets expensive in regret, because a lot of these things you can't get back. You can't get back that quality time with your kids, with your grandkids. You can't get back your capability at some point. Now I work with a lot of guys that are really broken, and by broken I mean, lots of different things. There's nothing wrong with them. They've just ignored these signals for a lot of years, and we can get them back. But man, I'm telling you, the time it takes, the effort it takes to do that, versus if you recognize this early. And I'm not talking about just, the information is out there. Right? What we don't specialize, we don't corner a market on the information. The information's out there. The information about nutrition is out there. The information about training is out there. There's even a lot of good information out there about mindset. But the problem becomes not the information, it comes the implementation of the information, and also the accountability. That's what really matters. And so for these people that are stuck in this kind of self-deception and thinking that they're okay, I really have to thank them, because this may sound selfish, but when these men actually say, hey, enough is enough, and they come into the program and they start being honest with me and with themselves about where their life really is and what their struggles really are, and they just come to grips with that, and they just have that realization, and they ask for help, everything changes. And not just for them, but I benefit just as much. I get so much out of helping these men, because number one, we are all put here to do something, to help other people, right? And I know it seems like that's counterintuitive these days, where everybody's fighting and everybody's, got all these polarizing ideas, but there's more things that we have in common. There's more things that we can do to help each other than what social media or TV or any of that other bullshit will tell you. Okay, there's more things that we have in common, but because of the fact that I get to help so many different people through different struggles, that I have to learn how to coach them through that it makes me a better person. And you need to realize that when you are asking for help, especially a successful man, and you built success, whatever success looks like to you, not just the money part of it, but when you've done that, but yet you are mature enough to recognize that you can't and shouldn't even try to be an expert at everything. You wouldn't think of trying to run your business by yourself, right? We all successful men have had coaches, and that can come in the form of a wife, a husband, even a sibling, a son, a daughter, a mentor, or it can be a paid coach. There's lots of different types of mentorship out there. But when I have to help these people through their struggles, it makes me a better person at the same time. So when you're asking for help, you need to realize the ripple effect of that. It's asking for help is not a sign of weakness. To me, it's a sign of maturity and strength to know that you don't know it all, right? I talk about that in my book, The Anti-Fragile Man, about this epistemic humility, where we all talk about the thing, the concept of you don't know what you don't know, right? But if you take that to the next level and understand that you can't even always believe what you think you know, let that sink in. You can't always believe what you think you know. So you think possibly that that you just lack discipline, and you know how to eat right, and you know how to train properly, and you know how to have how to actually set goals and attain those goals. You have all that skill set. If you don't actually implement that and have some accountability and understand that it's okay. In fact, I think it's imperative that you invest in yourself to be the best version of you. You weren't put here to be mediocre. You weren't put here to be okay. You weren't put here to just survive. You were put here to thrive. You were put here to help other people. You have a purpose in life, and maybe you haven't discovered that yet. That's the other thing we do here. Is a lot of people don't understand that we all have God-given talents. And the problem with the God-given talent is you don't know you have it because it comes natural to you. It comes easy to you. And you're like, well, yeah, everybody can do that, right? And it's like, no, that's not the case. So you were put here to use your God-given talents to help other people, to collectively help us as human beings to get better and better and better. And then when you do that, you'll see from my perspective how you'll understand that iron sharpens iron, right? And that's when you understand that, and when you actually embody that and you make yourself better, and then either by example, by actually going out and doing things to help other people, or just simply other people observing you thriving in your life and seeing your transformation from being pretty damn good to holy crap amazing, you'll inspire so many people in your life you have no idea. With this anti-fragile brotherhood that we have here, once you get through the initiation phase of our program, you can be invited into this brotherhood. You can't buy your way into that. When you are a part of that and you start using your gifts and your talents and your resources to help other people, that's next level stuff. You can't even imagine how powerful that is, not only from a financial standpoint, from a connection standpoint, to being in the room with like-minded people, solving problems together. Iron sharpens iron. And if you want to be the best you can, you need to get in those rooms, okay? So I hope that makes sense to you today. I want you to think about the fact that you may be deceiving yourself into thinking that you can do these things yourself, because none of us can. I couldn't. I had help along the way. The difference is I've taken all of the lessons I've been taught by my mentors and by coaching these amazing men for the last 10 years. I can take all of those lessons, and it absolutely makes me better. And by me being better, I can make 10 people better, and those 10 people make another 10 people better. And that's how we can make this grassroots movement turn into something that's way beyond what any of us could even imagine. And so I'm so grateful for you all for believing in me, for helping teach me those lessons, because I had blind spots. I'm the first to admit that. But when we recognize that and when we work through those things, that's how we're able to help other people. So I'd love to hear your takeaway today, what you may have learned from this. Send me a message. If you are struggling with something in particular, send me, DM me Vital, and we can have a separate conversation. You can tell me what particular you're struggling with, and I'll try and point you in the right direction. Whether you join my program or not, it's not about that. It's about collectively making us better, stronger, more resilient, more anti-fragile. That's what it's all about. So thanks for listening today. If we can help in any way, say DM me Vital, or if you are interested in the program, send me a message and we'll have a conversation about that too. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are, what your struggles are. Again, I'm going to learn as much from that as you are. So take care. God bless. And we're here to help if we can. So take care.